Read your thoughts. From the future.
The movies of
1985.
Hello, and welcome to the year 1985. That's right, 40 years ago. My name is Jason Hutchins. I'm stuck in the past, and all I do is sit around and watch movies on VHS. It is week 12 of 1985. That's Tuesday the 19th of March to Monday the 25th of March. And what I'm going to do right now is spin my bingo machine and figure out what movie I'm going to be watching this week. Oh, and a number is out. It is number 51. So we've had 52 and now we have 51. Let me just look that up on my Commodore 64 and see what we have. This week, the movie is Mask. Mask. Now that is a movie with Eric Stoltz and Cher. And I remember I did see this back in the day. It was a bit of a tear jerker, I think. I probably did see it on VHS in the 80s, in fact. Maybe just a year or two after it came out. So I'm going to have to pop off down the local video store to rent this. In the modern world of 2025, you might find this hard to get. In fact, you might have to track it down on Blu-ray, for example. Now, let's have a look. Where am I going to go to get this movie? So there's a lot of independent video stores around the place. This week, I'm going to pop over to Planet Video in Mount Lawley, a very popular video store that was there for many years. Sadly, no longer there in 2025, but in 1985, that's where I'm going to head. So let me just pop on the TV for you and I'll be back in a jiffy.
It's a kitchen table, card table, pool table, sewing table, dining table, operating table, multiplication table, bedside table.
Okay, I'm back. Let me
It's the
just pop
stable
this in.
table, a steady flat surface whenever you need one.
Stable
For under
table,
$10, it's irresistible.
And I'll just pause that and let's have a look at this VHS cover. So the front, we have a ghostly apparition of Cher floating up in the heavens, hugging somebody who you can only see from the back. And they're a bit see-through against the sky, but below them there's a young man with his fists raised in the air, facing the sunset over an ocean. So you see him from the back as well. At the top it says, based on a true story, Mask. And then a little tagline, sometimes the most unlikely people become heroes. Down the bottom, a Martin Starger production of a Peter Bogdanovich film, starring Cher, Sam Elliott and Eric Stoltz, and a few other credits. Now, turning it over to the back, we have got, again, based on a true story, so forth, a couple of photographs just of Cher and her partner. I guess that's Sam Elliott. No sign of Eric Stoltz's character, so I think they're perhaps saving that as a bit of something to be surprised with as you're watching the movie. It says it's a 2-hour long movie. And there's a bit of a blurb. It says, this extraordinary film is based on the real-life story of Rocky Dennis, a disfigured teenager whose face resembles a bizarre mask. Cher, in her first leading role, is his mother, Rusty. So Rocky and Rusty. With the help of Rusty's uncompromising love and fierce determination, Rocky overcomes pain, loneliness, and prejudice to emerge as an outstanding young man who becomes an inspiration to his classmates and his teachers. Directed with disarming candour and sensitivity by Peter Bogdanovich, Mask features incredible performances by Cher and Eric Stoltz, along with a powerful score by Bob Seger and other hit artists. It's an unsentimental tribute to the hero hiding inside all of us. Mask touches the heart and conscience. That's a quote from People, and Cher has put her heart into this performance, and the emotion shows through. That's the New York Daily News. Mask is superb. That's Gene Siskel from At the Movies. So there you go. That's the entire VHS cover. I've pretty much read everything on it. It doesn't give the game away, really. So I'm now going to press play on tape and watch all 2 hours of Mask, if it is indeed that long. And you can listen along at home to the trailer and hopefully track down the movie yourself to watch it if you like. Please stick around until after the trailer, and I'll be sharing my thoughts about the movie. And then we'll be travelling into the news-free zone to look at the news as it was 40 years ago as a bit of a distraction from today's news. But first, let me press play on tape.
Rocky Dennis has ambitions.
For academic achievement in mathematics, Rocky Dennis. You may as well stay here, Rocky. For achievement in history, Rocky Dennis. And for achievement in science, Rocky Dennis.
He has hopes.
Ben and I are saving up our money to ride motorcycles through Europe. Those are all the places I'm gonna go.
He has dreams, just like everyone else.
Boy, do I love you.
I wish we could run away and be together all the time.
We can't run away, Diana.
The only thing is, Rocky Dennis isn't like everyone else.
I don't look like Adonis. I'm kind of strange looking. I've got this problem that makes my face look real unreal. My mom says I look like a lion, though. She figures that I was a lion in one of my past lives and some of it got left over.
Universal Pictures presents a Martin Starger production, Peter Bogdanovich's Mask, starring Cher, Sam Elliott, and Eric Stoltz, based on the true story of 16-year-old Rocky Dennis. Mask. Sometimes the most unlikely people become heroes.
Limited platform release, March 8th. General release, March 22nd.
Wow. That was really good. I enjoyed that. 4 stars. 4 stars I'm giving that one Letterboxd. I haven't seen it since around about 1985, maybe 86 or 87. And I remember watching it on video cassette, and it did make quite an impression on me, young Jason, when I was 14 or 15 years old. It is a bit of a tearjerker, like I said. Now, this is not to be confused with the Jim Carrey movie The Mask. It's a very different movie, and perhaps not one that's too well remembered, because it is hard to find these days. You might want to watch the director's cut that has the Bruce Springsteen soundtrack instead of the Bob Seger soundtrack, as mentioned when I was reading the back of the video cassette, because Bruce Springsteen was the director's original preference. So the director's cut basically reinstates that music. People say it was probably cut because they couldn't get the rights or the rights were too expensive, but Bruce Springsteen himself was quite happy for his music to be used, so it was probably just a negotiation with the record company or something like that. The reason for choosing Bruce Springsteen is it was the real Rocky's favourite music. So this is based on a true story about this young man with craniodiaphyseal dysplasia. Basically, the bones in his skull, just like the calcium, just kept on depositing, and like they said, it looks like he's wearing a mask. And it's, I think the popular name of the disease is lionitis or something like that, and his mum sort of says that he has the face of a lion. And it reminded me a bit of David Lynch's The Elephant Man or Frankenstein as well. But perhaps it's good if I give you just a quick synopsis of the first 20 minutes or so. Basically, this movie gets running pretty quickly. We do have those long, drawn-out credits that all of the movies from this area seem to have. So we fade in with a shot of some hills, like a hillside with credits overlaid, with a fairly weird TV show kind of font. It looks like the beginning of Family Ties or something like that. The camera pans to a freeway, and we sort of follow the traffic, and then we cut to a suburban street, and then we zoom in onto a house. This takes a couple of minutes, and then we see this young boy dancing to music. See him in his bedroom. Obviously, he's a fan of music. He has posters on the wall, also baseball cards, and he's got a map and sort of circling a few capital cities around the world. So he's into travel. That's the first 4 minutes. And you can see that he doesn't look like a normal person. His head is quite enlarged and all of that sort of stuff. A silver sports car pulls into the drive. It's his mum and some guy. So the mum is Rusty. This guy is surprised to see her son. But then a whole bunch of bikies arrive and they scuffle with this guy. So, and the bikies have bought some baseball cards for Rocky. So they're very friendly towards him. He sort of knows them all and he's joking around with them. And then the bikies take Rocky and his mum, Rusty, to school, and he's being registered for 9th grade. And she's a single mum, and there's a whole scene with the principal that suggests that he should go to a special needs school. And Cher sort of says his special needs are, she says something like, do you teach algebra and biology and English in this school? Because they are his special needs. So she's a strong single mum. And then Rocky says to the principal, don't worry, I might look weird, but otherwise I'm normal. And that's basically under 8 minutes and is essentially all you need to know to set up what happens in the movie. So Cher is great in this movie, plays that real strong mum, and Eric Stoltz is quite amazing in this character as Rocky. And I remember being quite transfixed by his performance when I was young. I think, you need to have great empathy for this character, but they cheat a little bit because they only show the good side of this character, and he really is, he doesn't really struggle very much. There's a few little moments where, there's school bullies and stuff, but he very quickly ingratiates himself to everyone at the school and becomes quite popular. And I guess all of those other difficult moments in the life of the real Rocky are glossed over somewhat. Sam Elliott is like the father figure. His name is Gar in the movie. He's like an ex-lover of Rusty. So he does show up and become a bit of a father figure. There's a lot of drug use amongst these bikies, but it is a fairly sweet movie and I quite enjoyed it. I do recommend that you watch it if you haven't seen it before. But I think I might also have the nostalgia goggles on a bit because I really am just remembering what it was like to watch this movie when I was young. The director, Peter Borogovich, he directed What's Up, Doc, which is a 1972 movie that I really like. It's got a great car chase in it. It also features a singer in an acting role, so Barbara Streisand in this case, but I've always liked the What's Up, Doc. Also, The Last Picture Show was one of his. I recommend you see the movie What's Up, Doc if you want to watch a hilarious car chase. Interestingly, Eric Stoltz, his performance captivated Robert Zemeckis, and as a consequence, Robert Zemeckis cast Eric Stoltz in the role of Marty McFly in Back to the Future, which is another 1985 movie. And of course, you'll be saying, hang on, Eric Stoltz wasn't Marty McFly in Back to the Future. They filmed the movie with Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly. And only later did they change it and re-film basically a big chunk of the movie to feature Michael J. Fox, of course, in the role of Marty McFly when Eric Stoltz, his performance wasn't quite working out. So that's a story for another day, but interesting nonetheless. So what else? I think, I forgot to mention that Laura Dern is also in this movie. She's really great. She plays someone the same age as Rocky that he meets in a blind summer camp. So that's what the school principal suggested, that he become a camp counselor in this summer camp for blind children. Of course, they can't see his disfigured face. And he falls in love with Laura Dern's character and she falls in love with him. She's just really good. What's interesting about that is that a lot of people saw Laura Dern for the first time in this movie. It was one of her first roles, and believed that she was actually a blind actor because her performance is quite convincing. So it's really quite a good one. Anyway, that is Mask, a movie I really enjoyed. I will give it Mintox, a Mintox rating. I think it is well worth seeing if you haven't seen it before, and it rekindled some memories from my childhood. But now...
I'm driving along and I'm just singing my song. I'm in a news-free zone.
Welcome to the News-Free Zone, everybody, the time of the podcast where we look back at the news from 40 years ago so that we don't have to look at the news from today, because that's just a dumpster fire, isn't it? So this week in 1985, the TV show Moonlighting, starring Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, premiered on ABC in America. A blend of drama, comedy and mystery, a bit of a investigation agency, aren't they? I used to watch it back in the day. I remember my social studies teacher at school, Miss Travers, she loved Moonlighting, and that's all we ever talked about in social studies and history when I was in upper school. That ran until 1989. You can watch all 5 seasons of it on Binge in Australia. Also this week in 1985, the World Figure Skating Championships concluded in Tokyo, Japan, with Brian Bortano winning the men's singles title. Now, everyone who watched the South Park movie in the movies of 1999 last year would remember what would Brian Bortano do, and that is who Brian Bortano is. He's the ice figure skating world champion from 1985. He embraced the South Park, what South Park did for him, and used that for fundraising and all sorts of things like that. Also, this week in 1985, the FDA in the USA approved a blood test for AIDS, aiming to screen blood donations for the virus. So AIDS, I think, was discovered in 1981 or something like that, and we're in the thick of it in 1985. It's good to see that they have developed a blood test. Now, over on Usenet, if you go to olduse.net, you can read social media from 40 years ago, the prototype social media, at least on Usenet. And I was reading net.misc this week, where Craig Werner mentioned that this week in 1985 would have been the 300th anniversary of the birth of Johann Sebastian Bach. So in 2025, it is 340 years, I guess. He called Bach the greatest composer the world has ever known. And that is all I have from Usenet this week. I think it was a pretty boring week on Usenet, or at least a lot of the articles were boring to me. Just because it is a short one this week, I should have mentioned back in episode 3 that January 26, 1985, Australia Day, saw the very first City of Perth Skyworks. So that had its very first showing in 1985. I'm not sure whether I saw them when I was a kid, but I probably stood outside and tried to see them from my backyard in Cardinia. Anyway, that is the News Free Zone, and short and sweet this week. Please watch The Mask if you haven't seen it before, although it is hard to track down, like I said. And please visit again next week when I'll be spinning the bingo machine and watching another movie from 1985. Until then, don't forget to rewind.